Been a minute, huh? Hey, when the last time? Okay, let's talk about this. So, apologize, I've been out for a hot minute. There's a reason why I'm playing this record, of course. When the last time you see me on my own channel, right? Classic. Okay, so, for those of y'all who didn't know, I was traveling actually. I had a lot of work to do and things like that. So, and I'm in the lab, like I said, Bloodworld coming soon. Best believe I'm gonna launch that Kickstarter real soon. So, and I'll let you know the official date and all that. But been in the lab, work stuff outside of that, and then I was in DC and Atlanta. So, let me talk about that briefly, right? And also, by the way, this is the first and last time you're gonna see me rock this on camera, probably. At least for, you know, the next little while, and I'll explain why too. Anyway, so I'm in DC. I had a really good time in DC, actually. For any of you who've never been to DMV, I recommend it. I went to a spot called Cloak Dagger in DC. That was a ton of fun, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's run by a like former b-boy or something like that, a breakdance who used to work with like Pharrell and Busta Rhymes and all that shit. Anyway, I really like that spot. So if you're in DC and you need somewhere to go on a Saturday night, go to Cloak Dagger. Okay, they're gonna play the hardest records because that's what I heard for the most part, and it was like a good mix between the old and the new. So they're playing "Can I Get a Few from All My Who Want Though," you know what I mean? Jay, they'll switch it to some, you know, to ASAP, to whatever's new right now, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of like that, you know, and it's rare. You don't really find that at a lot of hip hop spots where they play that real shit. Because like I said, you know, I'm like a b-boy. I'm an undercover b-boy, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I look at rap like that to a certain degree. So I like the harder shit. I like the groove. I like real rap. You know what I'm saying? So, and the stuff that people who dance, who love hip hop dance, the stuff they like is different from what like a casual or mainstream listener might like. Do you know what I'm saying? And that goes with the new stuff that they gravitate to as well as the older stuff. And like I've said, a lot of that stuff, if you like from back then, the Nas's, the J's, and all that stuff, if you want to see that energy in the new scene, it's gonna be the Rockies and the Playboi Cartis, because that's just being honest, you know what I mean? So I like DC quite a bit, actually. Had a lot of fun in DC. And then after that, I went to Atlanta, okay? Which explains why I'm wearing this shit. Hey. So, I posted sometime that I was really feeling this record. I played this the whole time I was in Atlanta for some reason. I love this record. I always loved Made You Look, of course. But I was listening to this shit so fucking heavy. And the thing was, obviously, I saw the video with when I was even in DC. I was like, man, I gotta get a damn bucket hat. I haven't worn a bucket hat, I don't think, ever. For some reason, I've just never copped it, even though I like it. But I've never really been like, let me cop a bucket hat. But for some reason, this summer, I was like, I gotta get a fucking bucket hat, man. Been watching this Made You Look video like 100 times in the last month, type of thing, and it's just so dope the way that Nas rocked it and everything. I was like, I gotta get a damn bucket hat, and hence, you know, what you see right here. So obviously, I had my bucket hat. I was feeling nice, and I was listening to this all the time, man. This was actually my most played record when I was in Atlanta. Driving, because in Atlanta you drive a lot, you know? So, yeah, and then of course, the other thing I noticed when I was in Atlanta, I mean, I noticed this in DC a little bit, but then especially in Atlanta, is that everybody got chains on, man. So you gotta come through a little icy, right? Like, especially for those dudes, you know, if you're looking to pick up whatever, you gotta be icy, you know what I'm saying? So, I was like, you know what? Let me wear a chain, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to wear anything too, you know, like gold or whatever, because I'm not really like a fashion dude like that. I mean, I can appreciate fashion for sure on some level, but I'm not somebody that has to go out and rock the nicest shit or, you know, or even cares, you know what I mean? In a way, I have that DMX mentality, if you remember the famous bars. Never really been impressed by what niggas wear, talk shit, but I really don't care. That's me in a lot of ways. And what's interesting is that when I did decide to buy a chain, which is what I got in Atlanta, they got them in the malls and shit like that everywhere. And I feel like we all kind of buy the same cheap ass chain, but that's beside the point. When I was buying the chain, I was trying to envision myself, what would I wear that makes sense to me? You know, I didn't really want to go too tough. And I started thinking to myself, I like the way the DMX always rocked the chain. You'll notice that DMX rarely, like, he always wore a chain, but it was like the same chain, right? Like his entire career. He was never super icy. It was just kind of raw, and it was him. You know, he had that, it's not exactly this, but it was that same sort of like, I think it was stainless steel. I don't even know if it was silver, but, you know, he had that same sort of like stripped down, raw look. And I like that. And I was like, I'm going to do that shit. You know what I mean? It's interesting because the last time I rocked a chain, I think I was probably like 16 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like back in those Rough Rider days, actually. And funny enough, it was DMX. I used to wear that Rough Rider chain. So it's interesting how like certain things just stick with you. You know what I mean? So DMX. So I basically combined the Nas and DMX look. You know what I mean? And obviously these are some of my favorite rappers ever. So it just makes sense. And that's what I did. You know, and it came out pretty good. Hey, y'all saw me on IG. I'm gonna talk about this record for a second. So, Atlanta. I have to say, Atlanta was a little bit disappointing because I didn't really care for the nightlife, man, in Atlanta. I was, you know, it was my first time in Atlanta, right? Now, DC I've been to many times, and a lot of places in the United States I've been to. But Atlanta, this was like my first time out there. And I have to say that the nightlife, it wasn't surprising to me in a way because I think Atlanta has been getting away with making slow-ass music for a long time. I was surprised in the sense to see that it was hookah bars everywhere. And there's no real dancing. Everybody's just kind of on their phones and in sections and shit like that. That was weird to me in a way. But it's a logical consequence because, again, I've never really liked a lot of the Atlanta stuff. It's always been very slow and not like in the last 10 years or so, right? I mean, we've been leading up to this point, if that makes sense. So I'm not really surprised, but I was kind of shocked to see it. You know, it wasn't nearly as lit as what I experienced when I was in DC, you know what I mean? So I just noticed, like, again, sections, you know, the girls came with crews and they were just in their booths and nobody was, like, if you weren't in that booth, you weren't really interacting with anybody else. People weren't really dancing like that. Like, you'd get the occasional girl twerking on her friends and shit, but that shit's kind of corny to me personally. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not really my thing, but that's beside the point. It just felt very like my crew, your crew type of thing. And I've never really been a fan of that. I think that a good scene is somewhere where you can go as a newcomer, as long as you're cool. And then you can go out and like meet new people, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be new girls, new guys, whatever. That to me is what makes a great city, you know what I'm saying? If you're talking about nightlife. So this idea that you have to be like in a crew, and my crew meets your crew, that seems to be an Atlanta thing, honestly, from what I've seen. And I'm not really a big fan of that. So I was surprised. It was like just a lot of people getting faded and like drunk and shit like that. It was kind of you know. The music was also a little in the grand scheme of things. You know, I heard some joints, you know, for sure. Obviously, they were playing this. I heard this quite a bit. This is classic. But you know what else I've heard, of course? Y'all gonna laugh because this is what, the fourth time I'm doing this? Shout out to whoever was King Low or something like that. He was like, "Are you gonna play this shit over and over again?" But this is the most lit song out. I said this, you know this. So it is what it is, man. I heard this in a lot of places actually. So I heard this quite a bit. What else was I listening to? What I say? And then, you know, actually, as I was driving around a lot, because in Atlanta, you gotta drive. You gotta do a lot of driving. That's another thing where I was like, you know, I'm more of a walker type of guy. You know, I used to live in New York, so I'm used to that. Toronto, you know, to a certain degree, you walk around for things. So the idea of sitting in a car all the time is not really my cup of tea necessarily. But also, I love this fucking record, man. Bottom of the ocean. So this is Foals, Black Gold. This is rock. You know, white boys, but these white boys put their foot in this record. I suggest giving that a listen. That's honestly one of my favorite records ever. So I was playing that a lot. And you know, just hanging out in Atlanta, seeing family. it was good time, and people in Atlanta were, you know, they were friendly to me relatively, but I had a good time out there, so I can't complain too tough. But yeah, the nightlife was looking a little suspect. Now, if you're looking for places to go, I would say that the two best spots that I went to were a place called Whisky Mistress, but that's more of an older crowd, even older than me. Like, so you're looking at 40s, like 40s and up type of crowd, but they get it crunk in there a little bit, so people are actually kind of doing their thing. And then I would say for the young cats, maybe go to Traffik, you know, maybe. So, but a lot of other places I went to, Ember, trash, too many dudes, weird, just again, sectioned off, birds, like, you know what I'm saying? Nah, man. But, you know, again, just my one-time experience. And lastly, let's talk about Young Nudy and Pierre for a second, right? Wanna come out here? So, both of these guys dropped albums within weeks of each other. None of them were good. I would say the Pierre one was probably the worst. I don't know what Pierre's up to, man, but he's disappointing me, honestly, a lot. So I'm gonna play the one from Young Nudy that I liked. Let me see if I can find this online. EA Monster. It's the very first song, actually, honestly, on EA Monster that I liked. I mean, I wouldn't even say that it was crazy. Nothing to do. Yeah. This was okay. I think I even heard this out one time, maybe at Ace or something like that. The beat kind of knocked. I think I heard this a couple of times. This was cool. This is alright. But honestly, this whole album was a skip for me. And Pierre's shit was a super skip. Hey. So that brings me to the point of what's going on with rap. Honestly, it's been real sleepy, man. I can't really say there's anything I'm really super feeling. Oh, you know what? I posted this on the in my channel in the community section. I can't wait for the snippet of this to come out. It was the Jada and Swizz Beatz record. It sounded kind of hard, actually. Let's see if they're with the Onyx sample. Yeah, this shit was.
New Jadakiss, Swizz Beatz.
Funk Flex is out here saving hip hop, bro. Yeah, real shit.
Oh, we hot, we lit. Algorithms and monetize. Big spaceship. I got the second. What up, Leo? Algorithms and monetize. Leo said he got a sword on the beat.
Sound nasty.
Still learning the algorithms. He said he got a sword on the beat. Showing the humble rap and the harmony. We hot. It's hard.
It's hard. Flex is right.
Ain't nobody really dropping. New Jadakiss.
I don't know if that's just the New York energy in me, but you know, that shit sound kind of hard, man. So hopefully that record turns out to be any good. Oh, I want to talk lastly about ASAP and Playboi Carti. Again, most of y'all might already know this. I had listened to that song Our Destiny or whatever that they came out with. That was garbage. And I say this with all love. You know I love these artists, right? I just didn't think it was up to par. I mean, come on, these guys made New Choppa, man. New Choppa is that shit. Like, you know, I bought a controller, actually. I never really talked about this, but I did buy a controller, like, to try and practice DJing. I respect that shit, because that shit is stupid hard. But I actually played a little bit of that New Choppa, so I would do that, like, with the New Choppa shit, I would bring it back. That shit's dumb. And then, yo, like, you can loop that shit. It's, anyway, if you a DJ, you know what I'm talking about. That New Choppa, even the way it starts, again, it's hip hop. It's just, it's hard, right? So it's like, the last time they were together was New Choppa, so obviously the bar is high, and I want to hear some dope shit, but then they come out with Our Destiny, that was weak. So I wasn't a fan of that, but you know, there hasn't really been much going on in hip-hop, so I've been silent, and like I said, I've been in the lab, so I'm back, you know what I mean? I hope y'all have been having a good summer so far, and we gonna chop it up, man. There's more to talk about, okay? Love.